Hey there, good morning. I'm Connie Foote with Foote Title Group, where we protect your home ownership. Welcome to Coffee with Connie, and thank you so much for your time and tuning in. I try to come to you a couple times a week, specifically on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings between 7:30 and 8:30. So if you like the broadcast that we do, definitely tune in and make sure that you are online at those times if you can be. If not, we love the fact that so many of you don't have the time in the morning, but that you tune in and check out our broadcast later in the day. So if there's anything we talk about that you love, please hit the share button. That helps us a lot, but it also helps the people that you know get some information that maybe they wanted as well. If you thought it was interesting, I'm sure they will as well. And the other thing is, sharing helps us share our message with so many other people that you know. So I really appreciate that very much. And if you have questions, you can either ask them in the broadcast, you can ask them outside the broadcast, you can instant message me, or you can reach me through any of our other social media channels or through our website. So feel free to do that, because a lot of the things we talk about are questions that other people have or things that come up as we're working on closing. So thank you so very much for your time and tuning in. Hey there, Lee. How are you this morning? I really appreciate that. So today I wanted to talk about something that comes up a lot and that we actually are doing some other broadcasts and periodicals on. So if you check out things on our website or scroll through our Facebook page, you'll see some other periodicals about this information. But one of the questions I get a lot is, we talk about home ownership protection, and home ownership protection is, we are searching the title and making sure that the ownership chain or all of the owners previously, that there's no things out there that could affect your ownership while you own that property. Someone wasn't properly given the opportunity to sign off on their interest of the property. Maybe there was an estate issue and some other owners may have been involved and they don't even realize that they haven't had the opportunity to sign off on that. Maybe there was a loan or a judgment, or someone had something filed against them that was a financial responsibility, a homeowners association bill, a lien for not paying for some work done on their home. So maybe there was some things that were not paid for and not properly taken care of, and they still are secured by that property. And that loan or bill has not been paid for yet, it could affect your home ownership. And a lot of people say to me, well, if I'm buying a brand new home that a builder has just built, no one's ever owned the home before, so why am I going to have a problem? Well, think about this in the big picture. We're not only talking about the house that you're buying, but we're also talking about the land that it sits on, because you don't just purchase the house, you actually purchase the house and the land. And so because that land has been around since the earth was created, there have been probably several owners to that piece of property. And because of that, there may be some interests there that could be of concern. And as a matter of fact, sometimes the things that we find are in those particular situations, because you may have a piece of property that's been owned by a family forever. Maybe it was a family farm. Maybe it was several relatives that owned this together. They decided to split up the piece of property, and when they split up the piece of property, maybe one of those relatives passed away. So now you're talking about the fact that maybe they had children or other siblings or aunts and uncles that may have an ownership interest in their part of that property. Maybe they weren't willed that property, but maybe they did have an interest that was not properly taken care of. I'll give you a small example. We were doing a closing many years ago for a piece of property, and it was a piece of property that had been in a family forever, 100+ years. And as that family dynamics had changed, obviously the owners changed. And when I say that, what I mean is originally a husband and a wife, a mom and a dad owned that property. Well, the mom and dad passed away. That mom and dad had 7 children. Those children automatically inherited that property because of their estate situation. So then you had 7 children. Now we're talking about an over 100-year piece of property ownership. So as that time passed, some of those children tragically passed as well. And so then their children own the property. And it took us quite a long time to disseminate who actually was the owner, because they were dividing it and selling off one of the pieces of that property. And it was a little bit tough to try to determine who really owned that piece at this point, because now we were talking about over 100 years later, several different owners, only because, not because there was a transfer in ownership, but the ownership was transferred because people had passed and their heirs to their estate now have ownership interests with the surviving people. So you're talking about 7 original siblings, a couple had passed, their children then had ownership interest with those siblings. And at one point we got to determining that there was over 30 people that needed to sign off on this piece of property that needed to be, was going to be transferred to someone else, was being sold. And so because if we had not made sure we identified all those people and got all of those signatures taken care of, you now have an ownership interest that maybe they don't even know that they own. And sometime later in their life, they found out, wow, my parents owned that property. That was really cool. Or my grandparents owned it, then it was willed to my dad. My dad passed away. Wait a minute, all of my siblings signed off on that and I didn't. I don't want that home that that person built, but I may be entitled to some funds based on my ownership interest. And maybe I didn't even realize it for 20 years after that transfer had happened. So one of the jobs of a title company is to make sure that there aren't any of those types of interests that it could affect your home ownership. So just because you're buying a house that's a brand new house that was just built by a builder, the house is brand spanking new and no one's ever lived in it, but the land has been owned by several people throughout its existence, and there could be some interests we want to make sure don't affect your home ownership that are all taken care of. And there's lots of other examples, but that's just a really basic one that is kind of obvious that a lot of people can understand. So in most cases, even more, in that particular case, you want to make sure that you have that good protection, because it hasn't transferred hands a lot of times. Then there hasn't been a lot of opportunity to catch maybe something that was dangling or sitting out there that was an interest that wasn't taken care of. Typically, if a property's gone through a lot of transfers, there's more opportunity, more eyeballs, more opportunity to catch something that might have been missed. In that particular case, a whole lot less eyeballs, because it hasn't been transferred through the traditional channels, and a whole lot less opportunity to make sure that everyone's taken care of and that there isn't an ownership interest that was missed. So we, more often than not, when we're seeing a brand new subdivision or brand new homes, those are things that we look at even more intently, because we want to make sure that there isn't an ownership interest that could come back and cause you a problem with your ownership. So just a little food for thought information based on some questions that I get. And as I said, I love getting questions from the crowd. So if there's something that you don't understand, or that maybe you just have a question about, or that you just aren't totally clear about, reach out to me. You can do it through this broadcast. You can personal message me. You can reach me at Connie@FooteTitleGroup.com. You could also go on FooteTitleGroup.com and reach out to any of our team members in Maryland and Virginia, and they can help you with these pieces of information or answer questions for you. And there's lots and lots of resources on there. So if you are a buyer, go on the buyers page and go to the resources tab, and you can see all kinds of answers to all kinds of questions there. And if there's something that you're asking a question about that isn't on there, let me know, because it might be something we need to add as well. So thank you guys for your time this morning. Hey, Steve, how are you? Hey, Joe, how are you? Hey, I need to do a shout out to Joe. He's a local business owner who has a restaurant who I just can't say enough about how amazing and giving you are to the community. And so if you have never been to Galazio's restaurant in La Plata, that is a place to go. They have amazing food, but more importantly, their owners are really care about giving back to the community and wanting to do things for those people. So I really appreciate what you do for our community, Joe. It's fantastic. So thank you so much for your time, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. And if you would, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that share button. Thank you for tuning in to Coffee with Connie. I'm Connie Foote with Foote Title Group, where we protect your home ownership. Have a fantastic Thursday, and I'll talk to you again real soon, guys. Bye-bye.